be bringing in somebody today. So I'd like to introduce the lady we're going to be having. She's an amazing, amazing person. I'm going to read through her bio. So her name is MARIATU. She's a London-based designer. She's the owner of a brand called GITAS Portal. For those of you who are looking for designers or people that you might want to be discussing selling on your own online store, maybe that's the idea that you've got. Maybe she could be something you're interested in. Maybe she's got designs that you may want to be included. So, speak to her, connect with her. She does affordable, but it's more luxury, I would say. It's very well-made products with using African print. She's of dual heritage. She's Sierra Leonean as well as Barbadian, and she uses her cultural influences to give GITAS Portal a more broader appeal. Very, very feminine, very modern, very contemporary, but luxury in its way, and very well made, good quality. And that's her focus, is on high quality and giving great customer experience. Now, you see, MARIATU, what I love about her is that some of you have been like, I can't do this business because I've got so much stuff going on. This lady is a mother of 5 children. She looks after 5 children. She's a wife, she's an entrepreneur, businesswoman, and she's got a profound background as well when it comes to profession. She's highly educated and has come from a great profession in the civil service. So, but she wanted to follow her passion to be a creative entrepreneur like many of us here. So she was born in London, she was raised in Freetown, and she left Sierra Leone when she was 16 because of the civil war that we all know was happening in the country and in the town. She's faced times of homelessness in both the US, where she's also lived, and the UK. But she continues to rise. Her story is miraculous, guys. So I wanted to bring her on to kind of share some of her tips, and insights, and just show you how her tenacity of this lady, and give a bit of her testimony of doing business, fashion business, African fashion business, okay? So I'd like to introduce MARIATU. All right, so MARIATU, if you can unmute yourself and...
Hi, I have. To see me now?
Okay. All right.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much, MARIATU. So I'm going to kind of split it between, if it will let me do it between the two of us. No. Okay. So let's talk about it. I mean, first of all, I've given these guys a little bit of a background. You see me looking down, it's literally just to get through the questions. And but yeah, the main thing is, tell us about the company. Show us some pieces. Apart from the beautiful mugs that I showed, and tell us about the company. Tell us about yourself. What maybe I haven't shared yet, but fill us in. The products you make, the reason behind it. Tell us more.
Okay. Hello again, everybody. Those who have maybe just joined us, welcome. Thanks very much, Jacqueline, for the opportunity again to sort of talk and share my story and my journey in business. It's fantastic. I'm very much a firm believer that the more we can share our stories, we can support each other and we can grow together. So fantastic opportunity. As you mentioned earlier, GITAS Portal is a mid-luxury brand that specializes in the use of African print. So we use African print to make apparel, to make accessories and homeware products. We've been in the market sort of formally since 2011, and we started very humbly, because I'm a firm believer in despise not humble beginnings. You've got to start somewhere. And when we started, it was simply in our front room. So talking to friends and family and telling them, what we were trying to do and what we're trying to achieve, and having those friends and family sort of, start investing in what was our vision, our dream. It didn't happen overnight, as some of you would know. Nothing sort of just sprouts out, straight away. You plant a seed, it takes time. So we went from our front room and into sort of our local market. I'm based in London, as Jacqueline said, so my local market was Deptford Market Yard. And we used Deptford really as the first point to sort of just understand how to bring a product to market, test the product, get feedback, and refine what we had to offer. And as we got that feedback and began to realize there was some traction for it, we started to take, smaller steps forward. So we then started to expose the brand online, and then started to pursue overseas interests. So we do quite a lot of events now internationally, especially the US. Now, we've worked with the likes of the BBC. So for example, Silent Witness, we've provided some of our products for them to use for one particular Joe Martin, and some other BBC programs as well. We've been asked to design costumes for theatrical productions. But not only that, we've been featured in a number of publications. We're talking about Forbes, we're talking about Cosmopolitan Japan. I've always been keen on sharing my journey story, because it's very much connected to what we do as GITAS Portal. So GITAS Portal is just not a brand that makes fantastic, beautiful clothes or products. We're also very much passionate about promoting brand Africa. As Jacqueline mentioned, I'm African myself. I'm from West Africa, Sierra Leone, and I'm also Barbadian. So for me, it was very much a natural progression to share that side of my culture that I love, and what better way to do it than through African print. So we use our brand to not only, have a positive discussion about the continent, because one thing that I've found out is that fashion is a sort of arena where conversations can start, and you can never really plan and or plan what those conversations are going to be. But it's so interesting that when we've gone out and shown our work, people have just come forward, and whether it's the colorful prints that have attracted them, or just the designs, what always is a conversation starter. And we are very much in that realm where we've used those opportunities to talk about our work and talk about the continent in whichever way the conversation would lead. We're also very much about empowering women. Myself,
yes.
I'm a woman, and my struggle has been one of being a refugee, experiencing homelessness, and finding what it's like when you're a Black woman trying to, make headway for yourself. So for me, I'm very passionate about supporting women and helping women find themselves. A lot of us, struggle to find ourselves and find our purpose, etc., etc. So in my experience and in my journey, I've always been vocal about supporting women and helping them find themselves. And we have this strapline that I'm very proud of, which is "Be bold, win, wear color." And the "Be bold" is literally just finding your purpose and embracing it. So many times, a lot of us will find ourselves in arenas where we're not really being fulfilled. It takes a lot of courage to actually leave that behind and to really walk in your calling. And for me, that's the boldest step you can take, is when you leave everything. Maybe in my case, as Jacqueline mentioned, I was working in the civil service, had a relatively successful career. I'd studied economics and then went on to study law. So it's not like I was starving. But to leave all that behind and embrace, my calling takes a level of boldness and faith and trust, so that's what the "Be bold" part, of that strap line is. And winning is literally, what it is. The moment you start to walk in that direction of your purpose, you're already a winner, because I've never met anyone who said to me, "I'm walking in my purpose and I don't feel fulfilled." And the wear color, figuratively, is just literally, once you start to sort of find that alignment, everything about you starts to shine, you start to blossom. And if you don't want to look at it in the figurative way, literally it's just, step out there and wear your color. And you can obviously use GITAS Portal to help you find that fantastic African print, so you can wear the colors that you think best suit you anyway. So that's in a nutshell, most of what we are about as a brand.
So, doing this brand, let's go back to the beginning. I know you said this, cultural heritage, and that's kind of connected you to, or help you to decide to do something in regards to African fashion. But what was that moment, that turning point that made you say, "I don't want to work in civil service. I don't want to follow my career in law or economics. I want to explore fashion. I really want to go down the creative field"? What was that turning point? What was that thing that happened?
I think the turning point for me was the realization that I didn't quite feel that I was walking in my purpose. And I kept on being drawn to what is this creative energy within me. And it was a tussle because the two were sort of fighting each other. So, you know, on one hand, I'll have this civil service hat on, I'll go do my 9 to 5. But I found that I would come home and I would just start to create, if you know what I mean. I couldn't stop that creative side of me. And when I would create, I would find I would have that peace within myself, and I'd enjoy. And funny enough, I would be at work and I'd be feeling tired and counting, watching the clock count down. And the moment I got home, I would just have all this energy. Understand? And as I created as well, because, you know, when I started, it started very much as a hobby. I found that it made people feel happy. I would create stuff and women would buy it and women would be like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And that just kept on sort of niggling away at me and sort of saying, you know, this little voice in my head, Mariatu, you know, this is you. You're in your element when you create. You're in your element when you serve women. You're in your element when you take an idea and you bring it to life and you see how it blesses another woman. So it just made sense. I mean, it wasn't as straightforward as sort of just jumping ship, because it never is that. The reality is always there. We've got bills to pay. We've got other commitments. And when you're stepping into something that you're not, well, let's say, because for me, I wasn't trained as a fashion designer, if you know what I mean. So I haven't come through that mainstream route of going to fashion school and all that. So, you know, for me, when I started, there was always that at the back of my head, you know, and that little annoying voice sometimes that reminds you that this is not your field.
The limiting beliefs. I can just cut in there a little bit, because that's one of the things I do always say on my trainings, and one of the things that I do say to people if they're considering starting, because I hear that all the time. I don't have the fashion experience. I don't have a degree in fashion. I've you know, never worked in it, or I've never been to Africa, or I've never, all of these limiting beliefs. And I just say, these things are stopping you. When you just say, let me just basically screw it and do it anyway. You've got a concept, you've got an idea, and you just run with that vision. All you need to find out, all you need to do is ask how. Not looking at your lack, but looking at the, how can I make it happen? And you're an amazing example of that. You have got so much other skills, but the skills that maybe you thought you needed was not necessary, totally. And you found a way to make that happen. So maybe you can just, explain a bit more. Because that's part, I was going to ask about the challenges. Maybe that was part of the challenges that you faced.
I think what I'd like to say is that what I found out as well is that, yes, I may not have had the sort of technical experience, but, you know, the talent was there. The ambition was there, the vision was there, but also do not discredit the skills that you may have garnered, whether it's in the workplace, because I found out that, you know, other skills that I had acquired in the workplace and other, you know, areas of my life were just as useful. So things like being very organized is a useful skill to have. Being able to manage your time when you start a business, are useful skills to have. So these are all skills that actually you can apply to your fashion business when you start, and you will need going on. You know, when I worked in the civil service, I dealt with, you know, the most senior civil servants. So customer service and being able to manage people were essential, you know, skills that I had then that I could transfer and use in the business. And it did help greatly. So I would say to you all in your fashion journey, do not leave those skills behind. They'll be very, very useful. But, you know, the one thing I would say as well going forward is you are the vision behind that business. And you've got to keep on driving, because despite the obstacles that I faced, the challenges, you know, one thing I did not let go of was that vision. And I have another slogan that I like to use, which is see it to have it. You've got to see it. You've got to constantly be visualizing what you want and where you want to get to, because as you visualize, it becomes more tangible.
Yeah, totally agree. That's the entrepreneurial thing. A lot of it is faith-based. A lot of it is, you know, making those plans and those steps without even before you see that thing come to fruition or for it to manifest, you know, you need to see it here first. So totally, I'm with you on that. So even with some of these challenges, even with the fact that, you know, you may have your own mindset challenges starting up, and the management of time and people and organizing, obviously finance is a big thing. What's some of the positives that you found just doing, specifically in African fashion business? What's been the great things about it?
I think the great thing for me is that I've always felt that being able to use a medium that I feel very comfortable with it's a medium that I feel is very much a part of who I am, because I grew up in Sierra Leone. So these fabrics are not strange to me. I used to wear them, and I still do. My aunts used to be sellers of the cloth in the market, and I used to play with end pieces and sew bits and make whatever I want. So the fact that I am able to use something that I identify with and bring it to market is very empowering. You know, a lot of what we hear is that, especially as Africans, we always, I think, in that space where we think everything is being done to us. You know, and I guess some of you may remember when, you know, African prints started coming onto the market, and we saw the big brands sort of stepping in and using the prints, and sometimes even redefining and using language that we thought did not really accredit us for what is ours. I think the fact that I am able to take my prints and use it and build a narrative around that means that I am taking it and using it the way I best think, you know, benefits my continent and promotes, as I said earlier, you know, the best of what we have. And, you know, it's a very empowering position to be in, to be able to use that and bring it to market, you know, on my terms, if you like. I hope you get, you know, what I'm trying to explain here. You know, I think it's, for me, it was very empowering just to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, for you yourself, you've been on, I mean, I know you mentioned a few places that you've been on, but, you know, we've got like She Leads Africa, Pride magazine in the UK, The Voice in the UK, Madame Noir, London Live, that was a TV interview. I know you said Forbes earlier, Black Beauty, the Fashionomics, Huffington Post. There's so many, BBC Radio, all of these things. And I mean, you're able to share, you know, this business has allowed you to have something to share, not just about fashion, but about Africa as well. I mean, specifically Sierra Leone, I guess, in your history. But you just doing this is opening new doors for an opportunity for you to share more than just the fashion.
Yes.
And that's just amazing. That's just amazing. I just like to,
yeah, I mean, I'm always one as well to say to people, you know, no matter what your sphere of influence is, always try and see how you could use that to reach out and engage. So, you know, my sphere of influence, of course, is, you know, predominantly people know me for GITAS Portal now, but I've used the platform and, you know, networked within that to try and promote other things that I believe I'm passionate, or I believe in, or I'm passionate about. Yeah. So, you know, some of the things that we do even is around, you know, the amputees in Sierra Leone, because I mentioned the war, and as a result of the war, there were a lot of amputees. So we support causes that will raise funds for amputees, for instances, or even, you know, villages in Sierra Leone that need help. So whether it's garnering our network and saying, you know, doing a sort of donation spree and then shipping that back home, whatever you can do, you know, adds value.
Amen. Yeah, totally does. Now, in regards to your business and all these new things that you're doing, I mean, the main bulk of the business is the products. That's the bit that people see. That's the bit that's drawing people to you, and that's enabling you to go and do these other, in some ways charitable, in some ways giving back, in some ways just touching lives, okay? But the main bulk of people see, the thing that draws them in, is the products. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about a little bit of that business model. What kind of model do you have? Just so people who are not totally familiar will know. I mean, you know, just explain, you know, is it online stores, is it a boutique, is it selling other products? Just explain a little bit more about that and how you get your products to market so that you actually have a business. If you're not selling, you don't really have a business. So let's just describe a bit more about the product, the business model, and how you are selling that product.
Okay, we use a number of routes to market. So we, of course, have explored the online side of it, and I think it's a no-brainer, really. If you've got a product now and you want to widen your reach, especially internationally, then one of the quickest ways to do that is having an online marketplace. You can also have curated stores. So for example, like Afrokia is one of those that you could use as well, where, you know, they have, you know, various shops, you know, run by different designers coming together to market the product. So that's another way you could go down. But for us, we've definitely gone down the online route. We do a lot of festivals and markets, pop-ups, including not only in the UK here, but overseas. Because one thing that I found out when we started was around the credibility issue. And that was very real in the sense that, you know, when you start to talk about anything African, there was that hesitation. There was, you know, that hesitation in people's minds that, one, is it going to be of, you know, good quality? That's the first thing they started to wonder about. Is it going to be good quality? You know, if we're going to order online, you know, are we going to even receive this product? You know, is it going to be what we order? And we found that that was a major problem. And so going down the sort of route of, you know, getting our product physically in front of people so that people can experience the product was one way of sort of trying to eliminate those issues. Because once you get a product in front of somebody, they can feel it, they can touch it, they can interact with it. If it solves their problem, they're going to start investing in it. And once they invest in it, you know, you can more or less, and they like the product, you're going to find that they're going to talk about that product. They're going to tell friends, they're going to tell family. And if they talk about that product in such a way that it gives the next person the confidence to go forward and, you know, search you out, they're going to feel more likely, or they're going to be more likely to buy your product when they go online. So we found that that was an issue, and especially with our overseas clients, because overseas clients, you can see that, you know, they were checking the products out, they were sending, you know, questions through, and when they would then eventually buy, it might be a very small item, you know, and you could tell that they were trying to reduce their risk. And some of them, when you talk to them, you know, you could tell they were hesitant. And that's, again, around the credibility issue. So when we started doing, you know, overseas markets, when we went to America and went to certain places where we knew our customers were based, we found that straight away our online sales started to shoot up. So, yes, we found that straight away, because once people start to know your product and they, you know, because remember, we're competing in a market where there's so many other brands, non-African brands who've been well established, who've got their credibility sorted out, they've been there. So when a person sees your brand popping up, you know, and especially when you're saying if you're Africa based, there are going to be questions. Am I going to receive my product? Am I going to receive it on time? You know, so, I mean, it's an unfortunate starting point to be at, but we found that we had to deal with those sort of issues. Yeah. Okay,
but then you'd be selling by doing events internationally and the UK where you're based, marketplaces, trade shows, things like Essence Festival. I know it's one of them that you do regularly. Glastonbury. We've done Glastonbury before, and you know what Glastonbury is like, that mud and that rain. It was like, oh my God, I've never been in such mud in my life. Yeah, you know, but you did it. We don't do mud. We don't do that. But hey, we braved it. You did it. But I mean, there's a huge market, so that's why one of the great things. But it shows that you go out there. You're not one who's going to shy away from different sales channels. And you know, for what you're saying, it's because you're building direct connections with your customers. Yeah, I'm building that relationship. Yeah. And that's what, and you said they message you and ask questions, and you're communicating back to them. So that's helping you to build and sustain, not just on social, but off social as well. Yeah, totally. That's really, really great. That's just showing like some of the things that you even need to do is not just to have the great products, but the connection. I really believe as well that people, first of all, we're all about reviews. I mean, I know somebody just put it on the chats about reviews. We're all about seeing what other people thought about the product. And, you know, we look at things like TripAdvisor and what they said on the Airbnb, and, you know, all these things isn't validated. We want to know that. And part of the training that I do with new designers is all about looking at, one of the formulas I have is looking at pre-vetting, pre-validating and pre-selling. So those are some of the aspects that I train you on, for those who are watching, is how to pre-validate your customer, how to pre-vet your supplier, and how to pre-sell your product. So that's another way of kind of, you know, you connect with people before you even work with them, before you even sell to them, and you continue to build with them after you've actually made that product. So sustaining customers, building relationships, that seems to be very, very key, something that you're doing very well with. So some of the lessons maybe you could share that you've learned doing, taking a business with an African perspective, because it is different. People, like I said, they have a different viewpoint of it. From the moment they see, you know, wax prints, they have a perception of it. So what's some of the lessons that you've learned doing business?
I think the first thing is, I think you have to go into the market with an expectation that no one's going to roll out the red carpet for you. So know that in some ways the African fashion market is new relatively, if you like. There's still a lot of mystery around it. You know, you're going to find that getting funding, getting, you know, investors to support you is going to be quite hard, because no one really knows the size of this market. The data's not quite there yet. So if you are saying that you're going to go find investors, it's going to be a bit of a hard sell, if you know what I mean, because no one really knows the size. There's also the issue about, you know, is this a market that's here to stay? Is it a fad? Is it something that we see African fashion blowing up, but is it really sustainable? Is it something that, you know, people are going to say 10 years, 12 years, you know, 10, 20 years from now, people are going to still have that same passion and same, you know, appetite for investing in it, whether it's as a customer. So there are all these little issues that I think, you know, you have to sort of think about as well. But as I said, no one's going to roll out the carpet for you. You've got to work hard. We, you know, have self-financed our business to where it is.
Oh, look at that.
You know, it's not been an easy journey, but as I said, if you keep your eye on your vision, you keep on challenging yourself, you would get there. Another thing that I would say, and this is, you know, so eloquently put by a friend of mine, Michelle Raymond, who says, do not compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 15. So, you know, you start where you have to start and just gradually grow your business. It was so interesting because one day my husband was going through some old photos and he came across some old photos of what we looked like when we started, and we burst out laughing, you know. But it reminded us of how far we'd come, because this was a photo of our gazebo in Deptford High Street. Remember I said we started in the market? It was not even a proper market store. We didn't even know where to get that, so we just went into B&Q, got this flimsy store that the wind had half blown to almost bits. The clothes were just hanging there, if you know what I mean, you know. And I'd admit it was mismatched hangers to start off with, you know. Yeah, so we started off very humbly, but where we are today, if you look at it, you'll be amazed, because now it's on a completely different level. But you have to take one step at a time and you put one foot forward, and as you go along, you know, you learn from brands who are, you know, moving in the market. You be inspired and you learn from them, and you take what works for your brand and you grow your brand, and you will get there.
Absolutely. Well, you're showing that, you know, the journey you've been on. And how many years has it been since you?
I think if you go from 2011, when we sort of formally started GITAS Portal, that's about
10. Is that similar to my?
Yeah.
Well, you're just under 10 years.
Yeah.
We started 2010. So very similar season of time. It seems a lot of stuff was starting African fashion at that time.
But I only quit my full-time job 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, because part of that, you know, I know a lot of people, when you're starting out in this business, I think Africa did some sort of report and did a bit of research in the market, and they did say that African fashion designers, 77% of them have their fashion business as a side hustle. So I know a lot of people have to start that way, and that's how we started as well.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But yes, we sort of, I 3 years ago sort of said goodbye to the civil service job and went, this is it. I'm going to take the plunge. Yeah.
You plunged. And so we'll talk about the tips in a moment. So you've got a little moment to think about that. What's next for your business? Is there anything you'd like to share? I think we're launching, places are going to be showcasing.
We've grown organically, and I think in some ways, because you know, when you're running a business, sometimes you don't pause to really just congratulate yourself. You know, I have to remind myself, oh, Maria, to pause and take, you know, stock of the wins. And you know, interestingly, we've grown the brand with hardly any sort of outside marketing help. You know, we have just sort of, you know, learned these skills, you know, as we've gone along and grown the business. So one of the things that we're definitely trying to do this year is to see if we can put some proper money and get some marketing expertise behind the brand, because we believe that would make a big difference.
Yeah.
to the brand, and we're going to go back into menswear, because when we started, we did do menswear, and we found out that men will only buy if and when they have that one event to go to, whilst I guess us females, we would invent an event to buy something too. So the bulk of our clients and where the money was coming from was from women. But now there's been an interest, a lot so from men. You know, now men want to match their partners or their wives as they dress, especially from the American customers. And with African fashion, the beauty of it is that a lot of people are accessing their heritage, their culture through fashion, especially in the US, where, you know, there's that sense of wanting to find out more about their links to Africa. And so where people have not been able to perhaps, you know, buy that ticket and come directly to Africa, fashion becomes a natural, you know, mode for them to do that. And so we find that American customers are very much, you know, keen to invest in African fashion. We're seeing demand from males over there. So it became a sort of natural progression for the brand to say, well, okay, let's go back into the male wear for African print, actually. Yeah.
I love that, because many just focus on the women's wear, but it's, you know, the menswear is still an area that is for African design, African fashion. Yeah. It's very much a strong area as well. So it's great to hear that you're going back into that. So with that said, before finish up with this part of the interview, any advice or tips for those who are watching, who are thinking, I really want to start a fashion business that's made in Africa, or is African inspired, or is a wax print African business, and I just don't really know what I'm doing? Well, what kind of advice would you give as somebody who's been there, who's stepped out, who's gone through challenges upon challenges, and who's had some amazing successes as well? What would you say, looking back, like to your former, to your 2011 self, as to somebody's at that stage? What would you say to that person?
It is more than possible. Okay, have that vision and hold on to your vision. Surround yourself with people who are going to support you, especially when times get really challenging. You need people that are going to hold you accountable. You need people who are going to sort of, you know, be able to speak into your life in a way which would help you get through those moments and help motivate you, you know, whatever it is. But I think surrounding yourself with the right people is key, because so many times I've seen people's visions and dreams die simply by having the wrong people around them. Because if a person can't buy into your vision, if a person, you know, for example, does not even have the right experience or expertise to speak into your life, then why are you going to allow them to do that? Because when dreams are being birthed, it's a very delicate time. So if you don't have people who can understand where you want to go, they're going to easily kill it, because each time they're going to come with obstacles, they're going to come with, you know, negative talk, which, you know, if you're on a day where you're feeling low and they come with that negative talk, chances are that's when you're going to give up. So, you know, for me, I've had people like my mom, who's been fantastic. You know, she's definitely a champion for the brand. I've got my husband, and I have what I call destiny helpers. Jacqueline knows, because Jacqueline is one of those who, you know, on many occasions I have called, and we are Christians in business as well. So we don't hide that. I don't hide that. And when it's come to just praying into each other's lives, that's been really, really useful. You know, when it's come to sharing experience, that's been useful as well, because, you know, she has experience that I don't have. Another thing is your self-care, because if you're running a business, your business can only thrive if you're in the right space, whether it's the right emotional space, the right physical space, or, you know, mental space. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to make that a priority amongst other priorities, if you like. So for me, you know, one of the things that really helped me was just having my 4, if you like, sort of high level focus areas. And one of those was like my spirituality. I'm like, yes, I need this, because this helps me, you know, keep everything sort of balanced and grounded. And then it was my marriage. I'm like, you know, there's no point in running a successful business and blah, blah, blah. And my marriage is in tatters. So, you know, my marriage, my family in terms of my children, then the business, and then self-care. So if things don't fit into those boxes, they might not even get a look. They will not get a look in. It's a okay, question mark, I'll consider you later. So things have to fit into those boxes for me to say that my time is being used properly, for me to say that I am actually on the road to success as well. Because for me, those are also the high level areas in which I measure my success as well. So I think you have to be very strict with knowing, you know, what those areas would be for you so that you can focus on them. Because, you know, in life, so many things come to take your attention, to take your time. And if you don't have boundaries, you're going to struggle, especially with a new business. The other thing I think is, you know what your why is. A lot of people don't know why they're in business or what their why is. And so that's why
did that this week in
many times, you know, they're all over the place. Because when you know your why, you know, it really helps you stay focused. And the one thing is, as I said, the market now is saturated. You understand? You have all sorts in the market, and God knows what everybody's motivation, you know, is, or their intentions are. But knowing your why and staying focused to that, or staying true to that, will really help you. And know what your unique selling points are. What problem are you going to solve for that customer out there? And as you keep on doing that and building that, you understand, you know, you are going to start to sort of edge away from the rest of the competition out there. Because, you know, now that it's popular, you're seeing, you know, China coming in with all sorts of cheap tat, you know, so you're competing with a cheap tat, you know, and unfortunately there are customers out there who might not appreciate or understand the market or understand the products that you're selling. And so for us, you know, constantly educating customers as well, because some customers don't even know what is authentic, you know, tech or prints from what isn't. They don't even know. So they're quite happy to buy anything. And sometimes, you know, we've gone to events where, you know, we'll be there and we're competing against somebody who can sell a print dress for $5. You know what I mean? And you're going to have customers who come up to you and say, well, why is your price this when I can get that? So, you know your why, you know your product, you know what value you're adding, will always help you through those sort of conversations and positioning yourself. Because once you position yourself, and that's consistently done, and that's another thing, consistency, you know, you're going to make it, you know, I mean, there's so much we can talk about, but hey.
We could. I mean, you're saying you're for me, you're preaching to the converted. Those are all the things that I talk about, and I preach as well, and I try to live every day as much as possible, especially consistency, because that is a hard one when other things come into your life. It's challenging. Business is not for the faint-hearted. It is a marathon. It really is, and you have to keep day by day. And like I was saying to the group that you need, and to those I teach, you need your systems, you need your structures, and you need your support. You know, those are really fundamental aspects of your business. So, wow, you shared so much greatness, Mariatu. Like, there's so much I could take from that, and those watching will probably get fat and full up of all those tips and advice. So thank you for that, and appreciate you very much. Just to confirm, it's gitasportal.com.
Yes.
And that's the main website. The handle for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is the same, Gitas Portal.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's where people can find you. They can get your products where they can. If they want to discuss anything with you, they can hit you up on those platforms. So thank you for joining us. Now,